Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you on this post-holiday week Monday. Hope everybody's doing very well and jumping back into with a Cyber Monday, I guess. So I don't know. I haven't been on the shopping today, but I know it's a big online day for many. So if you're not joining us today because you're shopping, hopefully you get to play this later and get caught up. But pleasure to connect with everyone. Jennifer Katrulya, co-president of Family Office Association, here with Rush Olney. Rush, happy Monday.
Yeah, thank you. I plan to jump on the cyber train once we finish up with our days. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody, wherever you are. Thanks for joining in, and thanks, Jennifer, for the intro. We have an exciting topic today. I'll pass it back over to Jennifer, but it's search funds. So if you're familiar or unfamiliar with the term, we're going to unpack that today, and we have a search fund or two people that operate and run a search fund that'll be on with us today.
We're going to be welcoming Northspring Partners. It'll be Marshall Johnson and Nathan Day. For those of you who were with us back in May in Kansas City at our summit, you had the pleasure, hopefully, of hearing Marshall speak. And for some of you who were with us in New York at our recent events, you may have met them as well. But again, excited to welcome them to the show in just a bit. And we'll jump in. I think really the only housekeeping I have for today is we'll talk about Art Basel next week. And, I'm staying at a hotel today. And so it always happens that nobody needs anything until you're on a live stream, and then phone rings and everything else is happening. So apologies for all of that, but we'll welcome our guests in a moment. And so, but for Art Basel next week, for those of you who are interested in or have been signing up for our events, as many of you know, if you've been kind of keeping an eye on Art Basel, things are very, very fluid for this year. And so we will be posting one last round of some event changes. For those of you who are trying to attend our Wednesday event, Wednesday evening, and we're told that it was sold out for a while, it in fact was. So we now have moved to a larger venue that will allow us to include some more people. We have a great guest list, so you will see actually that will open up, and you should receive an email from us as well if you were one of those who reached out and we said, sorry, it is full, but we were able to find a space that will allow us to accommodate more people. On Thursday, same thing. We do have a little bit of capacity. We've opened up. So we'll be admitting some more guests for the Thursday event. And on Friday of next week, so the 8th, we've actually changed things up a little bit to where we will be doing a tour of Wynwood. We've got a 30-passenger vehicle that we'll be using, and Rush will be among the couple of our tour guides for that day. So no pressure, Rush. We know you're going to get some help from the Miles Spencer family, who some of you have met. And so again, excited about that as well. But a lot happening for next week. So if you are attending Art Basel and are curious about the events, and go to our website right now, just be advised that within the next 24 hours, there'll be some minor tweaks to some last things on that schedule. So, but looking forward to seeing everyone in Miami. And then following that in Kansas City on the 12th and 13th, we'll do some Plaza Lights viewing in KC. So if you're in the area, please look for that announcement as well. Then we'll be going quiet for the rest of the year to enjoy holidays, as hopefully you all will. And we'll be coming back hard in the beginning of the year. We'll still continue this show and a lot of things online, but that'll be the wrap up for our travel for the year. So, Rush, anything else you have before we kick into our guests?
No, that sounds delightful. The end of travel for the year sounds very compelling. So
Rush has a very long to-do list to start on. So he's been looking for the home time. But thank you very much again for everyone who's made all of the travel such an adventure for this year. It's been very awesome, and we're looking forward to next year. With that, I'm excited to invite Marshall and Nathan in to join us. And so, Sander, if you don't mind, we'll bring them in. Uh, well, good afternoon,
Hey, folks.
Marshall, Nathan, and Nathan, and Rush is so good to always do the good morning, afternoon, and evening because we do have guests everywhere. I only track to whatever time zone I'm in, so I try to be pretty selfish about it. But he's been great to extend the welcome. And so, Northspring Partners, we had the privilege of getting to know all of you now several months ago. It's flying by, but and to spend some great time with you, Marshall. We're going to get you on a pickleball court yet one of these times.
One of these days. You're right, Jennifer. I will.
We got close, but we're very excited to have you on today and would love it if you don't mind if each of you would just take a little bit of time to talk about yourselves and a bit of your history and what led you to kicking off Northspring Partners.
Great. Thank you all for the opportunity, and it's I've always enjoyed my interactions with the FOA team and all the members. Marshall Johnson, live up in Minneapolis. My background briefly, I worked for British Petroleum for 5 years. I went and got my graduate degree, worked in startups, and then I've got a family of entrepreneurs. And I did a lot of soul searching and realized I wanted to buy a company versus start a company. And so I found the search fund model, which Nate and I are going to talk about, and it changed my life. And I was able to buy and operate a company here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, grew it, and really became just a lot of amazing experiences when I was running that company. And but I was really introduced to the search fund model, successfully grew a company in the reverse logistics for IT services, and had a good exit with a publicly traded company in Denver. Bought another company, and now Nate and I are partnered together running a private equity fund that invests in this asset class. Nate?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer and Rush, for having us. So a little bit of a different path for me. I started my career on Wall Street, did about 9 years of investment banking, got an MBA from Chicago Booth. And in 2014, I had initially learned about the search fund model, raised the fund in 16. I bought a company in the Twin Cities in 18. That's how Marshall and I know each other. So we were having to be in the same YPO group when we were up there operating. I live in Tampa, Florida now. So it's nice and warm and balmy here relative to where you are today, Marshall. Yeah, Marshall hit the nail on the head. I mean, the search fund model changed my life for the better in so many ways that we really wanted to dedicate the next chapter of our careers to this and to investing in this full time. Not only because of the phenomenal track record of the strategy and the returns that we're able to unlock, but it's really a story of mentorship and helping other entrepreneurs and young CEOs grow into their skill sets.
And if you don't mind, I'm sure we have people across the spectrum and familiarity with search funds. If you could take, a minute or two and just sort of give your boilerplate response or definition of what a search fund is.
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. So it's essentially a two-stage approach to investing in private companies, and it's much akin to VC and private equity if you were to put the two of them in a blender and take out some of the best aspects of either. So we bet on entrepreneurs, but in the sense that we're betting on them with a thesis and a really extensive support group to unlock value in the lower middle market. So instead of an entrepreneur coming to us with just an idea and saying, hey, I've got a blank sheet of paper and I want to go build a company, they come to us with their private placement memo and they say, we have, for whatever reason, they may have a particular thesis on an industry and they're going to say, I'm going to go acquire a business in a specific field. And if we think that that's a decent thesis and we like their track record and they've had some demonstrable evidence of grit and perseverance throughout their career, we'll throw our hat in the ring to support them financially and through other mentorship. And so our first stage is we put a small down payment on the searcher. We club up with other investors that are just like us. And then we get a 2-year preview into what it is that they're looking for. So they're going to scour the country for the best opportunities that they can find. Really looking for the diamond in the rough opportunities, right? Not the picked over business broker landscape that you probably have all seen. These are people that are getting primarily deals across the finish line that are sourced directly from sellers. So the ideal prototype is sort of a 70-year-old retiree with no succession plan, wants to find some sort of liquidity. Maybe a competitor isn't the best fit. Maybe private equity in its traditional form is not the best fit, but they really want to rely on that entrepreneur to take that company to the next level. And so we get that second choice in the choose your own adventure of search fund investing, where we get to say, hey, we like this entrepreneur, we like how they've conducted their search, and then we'll run more of a private equity playbook on the back end, which is fully diligencing the opportunity and structuring it, helping the searcher come up with the terms for the seller, and then we'll operate that very, very similarly to another private equity fund. The two challenges that it really solves for the lower middle market PE investing landscape in general is sourcing great companies and great platform investments to invest in. And then the other is the subsequent management of those. And so when we are backing these CEOs or entrepreneurs that want to be CEOs, you kind of come with both components sort of hat in hand, right? So that really helps and has led to this being very successful for 40 years.
That's one of the portions of search fund that I think where they really get it right is there's always anytime you speak with private equity or VC, no matter what industry it is, it always seems to come down to management and the confidence in the manager or the group at the helm. And I really applaud the idea of building that relationship and knowing that manager that's going to go in and take the helm and get the company to the next level. So I enjoy that aspect of search.
And so I do want to welcome in. What we try to do during the course of this, Marshall and Nathan, just so you know, is keep things conversational, welcome people who have joined us. And so we see we've got Kurt Kaufman and Lou Klein who have joined us as well, and they're sending their good afternoon. So hello to both of you. And what will happen during the show is that we'll have some people comment in or ask questions or share their thoughts. And then we'll also, for those of you who sometimes send direct messages to me or to Rush or through the FOA site, we'll take time, if we can, to answer things during the show today. And if not, Marshall and Nathan, what we'll do is follow up with you, and then we share the responses with those who have sent notes either during or after the show as well. So, but hello to those of you who are on, and thank you very much, and feel free to send in your comments or questions as we go. And I will say that Rush is clearly very excited about today's show and topic, because normally I hog all the time chatting away. And he's taken a lead on a bunch of the questions today. So Rush, thank you. And but also, I know this is a topic that comes up for us quite often. So, but a question I do have is in terms of just, key factors. You see a lot of companies, of course, cross your paths and have to go through a lot of due diligence in this. I don't even say strange market, but in the place we're existing right now with so much happening, what are some key things you look for that you think are lead indicators of success?
Great. I think first thing, let's just talk about the market. It's just a phenomenal time to deploy capital in private companies in the lower middle market. The stock market's had a great run right now, but if you look at the private market, the banks aren't lending that much, and that has depressed valuations in private equity. And really where we play of profitable companies in the lower middle market, valuations have come down in better deal terms. It's a great time to deploy capital. As far as Jennifer, the criteria, the types of companies and industries first, we look for high growth industries, usually about double GDP. So we're looking in high growth. Good valuations. So our searchers or our future CEOs are finding these companies direct without an investment banker or a broker. And so we're buying them at 5 to 6 times EBITDA or profitability, which is a lot lower than classic private equity valuations. Thirdly, we're looking for usually asset light businesses. So they've got good free cash flow to invest in new systems and management, upgrading their accounting systems and things like that, CRMs. Profitable companies, 2 to 5 million, history of stable cash flow, sometimes 20, 30 years old. And as Nate said, someone who wants to retire, their kids don't want to run the business and they don't want to sell to a strategic. And so we come in and solve that problem by having a CEO that's willing to learn and run that business. And then levers for growth. Normally, they don't have a CRM. They don't have a strategic plan. They're great companies, but you slowly implement strategies to really unlock growth. And that's why historically, this asset class, we can, on our website, we have a Stanford report. Historically, this asset class has returned 5 times cash on cash because of all the criteria I mentioned. And Nate, did I miss anything?
No, I mean, I think that it's just important to call out the distinction that we have to make when running this fund, which is not only are we diligencing the operating companies, we're diligencing the searchers, right? And so that's sort of the front end aspect of this. And so, we're looking for, certainly pedigree plays a part. You have to have sort of your minimum qualifications to be able to throw your hat in the ring to do something like this. But I will say, we, at least I like to think, are independently minded when it comes to, who's going to be a good searcher, right? They don't have to be cookie cutter HBS Stanford. I think that there's great searchers that can come from all over, but they do have to have a track record of, and some demonstration of grit, perseverance. How have they, led a project or ran a P&L? Have they hired and fired people? And so there's a bunch of diligence on the person first, and then the opportunities afterwards.
And so in the search space, when you locate a company and start to approach them, how often do the current owner or the current owners of the company, do they stay in and retain a piece of ownership, or is that, I'm not as familiar with the intricate details, but I know obviously looking for a liquidity event or to move away from day-to-day operations, but it seems like a fit for them to stay in to take the ride.
Yep. I think I'll start out on that. I think most importantly, the companies that we acquire, the owner really is passionate about their company. It's part of their life and their legacy, and they want that to continue. So when I bought Asset Recovery and was CEO using the model, the 2 co-founders of the company stayed involved in the company and taught me the business and helped me grow it. Financially, they provided a seller note to the company. So they provided debt to the company. And in all the investments we've made thus far with our fund, there's seller note financing, which is huge because that owner believes so much that the growth of their company will continue. They're willing to give it a loan, and the companies all have good free cash flow. So they really want the company to succeed, and they usually invest financially in some component.
That's great, because a lot of times it's sort of this in with the new, out with the old.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't want to say hostile in any way, but the thought that partnering with, and both from an operation standpoint and a financial standpoint to benefit the previous owners or the people stepping out of operations makes a ton of sense. It ties everybody to the same wagon. So yep. I think that works very well.
Yeah, and Rush, just to add too, I mean, I think more importantly than say a rollover equity or a seller note is just having some connective tissue, right? I mean, like, you want to have continuity, and these by and large are really great businesses, and they've just been undermanaged. This is the first time they're going to be professionally managed or private equity backed. And so having somebody that, knows, where the bodies are buried, for lack of a better term, is really, really great. Right. And I think more importantly, we're looking at these CEOs that are really emerging and kind of growing into their own skin. And so to have some continuity and to have somebody coaching them sort of day in and day out is really, really valuable. Now, the flip side of that is it can also create problems, as one could imagine, right? If their owner is watching their company that they've built be changed and transformed, and that's part of it too, right? And so it's really about, one of the things we coach our searchers on is to try to just do a lot of discovery on what objectives the seller has, right? So are they in it for the second bite of the apple? Marshall mentioned earlier the valuations do tend to be a little bit lower than traditional private equity. So if a seller is looking for top dollar, search funds maybe aren't the right solution for them. They have to have either the second bite of the apple or have some other motivating factor that leads to them wanting to transact in this type of way.
Yeah, the kind of scenario of a homeowner who wants their home to be lived in by a family and wants that passed down versus maybe getting more money and selling that to a developer to tear it down and basically start ground up. So there's no right or wrong way. It sort of depends on the seller and the new teams coming in and how they're gonna bridge that and build that relationship.
Yep, that's a good analogy. I mean, all of our searchers, they're on our website. Their sole purpose is to find one company and buy, and they do contact thousands of companies, and they find that one business owner where they build a good relationship, and the owner's like, "You're just the person I've been looking for to continue my legacy, run the company. I'm tired. I want to move on, but I want to help guide it and make sure it's in good hands." And you form a relationship. So that's a great way to look at it, Rush.
Well, and so question I have, and I want to welcome Kirthi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. You can, if I didn't, please type in and so I get it right. But from Vancouver, so that's pretty cool. Welcome today to the show with us. Question I have, because private equity, some know I don't usually mention them on the show, but I'm very familiar with being PE owned in terms of some other parts of my existence. And, the delicate balance is all the pluses that, the funding and the support and the resources can provide, but that balance between being overly constrained as you're suddenly pushed into metrics and measurement, and where being very entrepreneurial has worked up to a certain point. How do you, when you step into companies and provide, as you've mentioned, the resources, the oversight, the support that come with everything you're sharing, while not getting in the way of the success that they've had by being so entrepreneurial, how do you strike that right balance with the companies you're involved with?
I think the first thing we say is do no harm. You were buying profitable, good companies, great recurring revenue, good customer bases. We're not turnaround or venture capital in any way. We're buying good, profitable businesses. And well, I guest lecture at Duke, and Nate guest lectures at Booth, and we get asked this all the time. They said, "What do I do when I'm a first-time CEO?" Don't make any big changes. Just learn the business, get to know the employees and the customers, and things like that. And then over time, work with the founder, work with the management team to learn, and the board to identify the big growth levers. And then Jennifer, slowly put in, implement, great accounting standards, great financial standards, great sales standards. And that's what really unlocks growth. But a company can only handle a couple changes a year. So don't come in and make a bunch of changes. It's not a turnaround in any way. So
absolutely great. And if you look at the 3 to 5 years kind of out from all this, what are you seeing as trends that you're watching that you're really excited about? Some things that you would tend to shy away from? What are you looking at for the next few years?
I'm happy to tackle that, Marshall. I think one of the things, just zooming out, 30,000 foot level, is that the best VC funds, the best PE funds, kind of going back, several decades, the performance has always been the best at sort of this type of inflection point in the overall market, right? So you look at the 01 vintages, the 08, 09 vintages, and what we think is going to be the next kind of coming wave in the next 3 to 5 years. Multiples are compressing, hopefully. I think we're all cheering for a soft landing here. The market's run up. People are looking at, hey, how can I get back into alternative asset allocation? How can I look at this? Private credit has obviously been huge because of the tightening in the banks, but this is a completely durable asset class that's been around for 40 years, right? And this strategy of investing in search funds. And so we're looking at this next part of the cycle and kind of licking our chops. Like it's gonna be great. I mean, it's gonna be a phenomenal time to jump in, buy small private companies, and help them get to the next level. I'll say too, on the talent side, we've just seen so many great entrepreneurs, coming to the table that want to do this. And as the strategy's grown and gotten bigger, Marshall was just at the Booth Kellogg conference in Chicago. That was 700 plus people. The HBS conference, 700 plus people, actually close to 1,000, I think, this year. There's a Southeast conference. There's some, all kinds of stuff in California for this. And so as there's more eyeballs, more attention coming into this space, we're just going to get more and more talent. And I think that there's no shortage of great companies to buy.
Awesome. And Marshall, you've been on the move then. We're going to have to start to track your Where's Marshall This Week stories. I bet you we're missing out.
I can't keep up with you guys, but no, it's fun. I love this. I'm an empty nester and I'm traveling a lot. Just, again, it changed my life. And if I can educate a few people on the model, and they might find a way to buy a company, and it's just, there's so many great things about it.
I did enjoy the choose your own adventure comment. I'm sure there's a lot of people who never were exposed to those novels, but that thought or premise, I think, is very appealing, especially to the, call it 25 to 35-year-old who have worked 60, 80 hours a week for an investment bank or for a firm, a law firm, whatever it may be, to go out and find their own adventure that they have expertise in, and have a great support system in, with Northspring, and really just chart a new path for their professional life, and that would be very appealing to me, had I known about it 20 years ago. Not to date myself, but that part of it for the searcher, I think, will be a very big draw as this becomes more and more prevalent and more people start to understand the model, and groups like yourself continue to offer those opportunities to people with the grit and desire to go out and do that.
Yep. It's never too late either, Rush. I mean, a lot of our folks that have a lot of experience like you, though, that are, mentoring or being on boards or just helping these CEOs. And the other piece I want to, when you said choose your adventure, the thing there's a lot of data available about the model. And giving the analogy, like if you look at venture capital, about 70 to 80% of those ventures fail, and those 20% are just going to deliver those great returns. With search funds, north of 75% of the companies that are acquired are successful. So this is a really data-driven path to success if you find those right types of companies. So there's a lot of great research on the model that we're happy to share.
Well, and so
so real quick to that point, we will absolutely bring in data and white papers and anything else onto our new member site that we will have launched very shortly. We would love to have that as a resource for all of our members. So I appreciate that. I beat you to it, Jennifer.
So, a question we just had come in. So this is a private equity strategy, and what should investors expect for investment timeline? I guess we can say timeline. Probably returns is something that we're certainly, if you talk about averages in the past versus a specific deal, what have you seen historically?
Yeah, so the model's been around for 40 years. Stanford's the keeper of the data, so this is not specific to our fund or anything like that. But over the last 4 decades, it's been a 33% IRR and a 5.2 cash on cash number, right? And so that's kind of across, in aggregate, all search funds, winners, the losers, all of it. I I would say if somebody's interested in investing in this strategy, funds are typically the way to go for private equity investors, just because, if you're going to come into this and try to cherry pick winners and losers, you're going to expose yourself to a lot more of that volatility and sort of the binary outcome of who does well and who doesn't. And so it's really a diversified play into the lower middle market, and that's largely led to that. I would say one comment on timing or sort of the duration of the investment. It's private equity plus or minus 2 years, right? So it's the search plus then the private equity playbook on the back end. So, some searchers find a deal in 1 year and exit in 3. That was a little bit more of my story. Some people are in there operating for 7+ years. And so it just sort of depends on, each individual deal.
Well, so, the discussion time always goes so quickly. So we're at the end of the show here already. But what I wanted to do is share a couple things as we close. Rush teed off the discussion. If you're a current family office member or resource council member of FOA, you'll find as we launch the new member website, and so Marshall and Nathan will work with you. We have a portfolio section for every resource council where we'll be able to load white papers and other information that you have. And so again, members, you'll be able to grab that from within the site. And certainly for those of you who have questions and want additional information, we will be making some of that available through the public profiles for Marshall and Nathan. And also, if that doesn't cover what you're looking for, please contact Rush or myself, or connect with Marshall and Nathan over LinkedIn, and want to make sure we get your questions answered and get information back to you. And really appreciate the questions, the time, the viewers. And thank you very much, Marshall and Nathan, for sure, for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. Morning, afternoon, or evening, as Rush would say. Take care, everyone.
Stay warm unless you're Nathan and it's short weather. So everybody else seems to be quite chilly. So appreciate
Thanks
it.
again. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.